can you and will you back out of it now?
Well, the treaty has already been signed.
So it's a done deal?
Yeah, the treaty's been signed with the Mauritian government, so I can't reverse the clock on that. The treaty's been signed.
Well, Donald Trump has verbally attacked the UK for planning to give away the island Diego Garcia to Mauritius. Let's get a reaction from the Labour Cabinet Minister, Darren Jones. He's Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister. Darren, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You'll have seen this message from Donald Trump. I'll just read it so everyone can be aware of the context we're talking about. Shockingly, our brilliant, in inverted commas, NATO ally, the United Kingdom, is currently planning to give away the island of Diego Garcia, the site of a vital US military base, to Mauritius, and to do so for no reason whatsoever. He goes on to say that the UK giving away extremely important land is an act of great stupidity and is another in a very long line of national security reasons why Greenland has to be acquired. Denmark and its European allies have to do the right thing. What is your reaction to that?
Oh, well, I suppose there's two things in there. One is Diego Garcia, which the president is right, is an important military base, both for the United Kingdom and our allies, including the United States. We've been around this in the past. Legislation is just going through Parliament. It was essentially an island that was from the British Empire. There was challenges to the sovereignty of that island. What we've put in place is to secure that base for 100 years by essentially leasing it, and that protects our military capabilities in that important part of the world, both for us and for the Americans. And when we announced that we were able to secure this deal with the Mauritian government, the American administration and our other NATO allies welcomed it. So that is the best way to secure the future of.
But he's not welcoming that. Let's be absolute. I mean, this couldn't be more stark, more clear, more disrespectful, more contemptuous of your government. It's an act of great stupidity. He's calling the UK a brilliant, in inverted commas, i.e. not a brilliant, a poor NATO ally. This is an act of great stupidity.
I'm not disputing the contrast between the previous American administration position under President Trump, where they welcomed the decision on Diego Garcia, and his words in his tweet. I'm not trying to say otherwise. All I'm saying is that the best way to secure the future of Diego Garcia is the way in which we have taken.
But Donald Trump doesn't agree with that now.
And that's fine.
Well, is it fine though? I guess that's the question. What do you do about Donald Trump saying this?
Well, Diego Garcia was part of the British Empire. There was legal challenge to the sovereignty of it from the Mauritians, but we wanted to secure it for the next century for military operations, and that's what we've been able to do through the deal that we have. We're just about finishing legislating for, but the treaty's already been signed with the Mauritian government. The second part of his tweet there was about Greenland, and we agree with the Americans and others that we have to do more to bolster our security capabilities in the north and around the Arctic.
That is not what the Americans are saying. The Americans are saying that Greenland has to be acquired by the United States. We can't talk around this anymore. This is not all jolly mates together saying we need to be more secure. He is saying America is entitled to Greenland and has a right to acquire it.
So we disagree that the Americans can just take Greenland. As the Prime Minister has been very clear, the future of Greenland is a decision for Greenlanders in the Kingdom of Denmark. I mean, we can't be clearer than that. That is the British view. All I'm saying is that the President is making the case that we need to increase our military capabilities in Greenland in order to secure the north, given the vast Russian border militarization and also the Chinese being able to use those waterways now that the ice caps are receding. We agree with him on that, as does NATO. And so the debate that we are having is what more can we do with
That's not the debate he is having. The debate he's having is he wants Greenland and he thinks you should get it. He's shaking you down because he wants Greenland. Are you going to change your policy on the Chagos Islands in order to appease Donald Trump now, with him having said this?
The treaty's already been signed on Diego Garcia. As I say, it's just about finishing legislation in.
So there's no backtracking there's no possible backtracking on this.
As I say, the treaty's been signed and we're just about finishing the legislation in Parliament. That is the best way to secure the future.
I understand that point. I understand where we got to it, and the House of Lords is still with them, and it's still in Parliament. My question to you is a very specific one. Is there no further possibility of backtracking from this position?
I'm not entirely sure how I can see that happening, given that the legal treaty has already been signed and, as I say, the legislation is nearly finished. It's the British government's view that for Diego Garcia that is the best way to protect that.
But the legislation hasn't finished, so the question is, can you and will you back out of it now?
Well, the treaty has already been signed.
So it's a done deal?
Yeah, the treaty's been signed with the Mauritian government, so I can't reverse the clock on that. The treaty's been signed. Parliament has a kind of enabling function on treaties. It's not like a traditional piece of legislation, so it can't unwind the treaty having been signed.
Donald Trump also said yesterday, reported on this programme, a message to the Prime Minister of Norway, "I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace. The US is in terms threatening war to get Greenland."
I mean, look, that's deeply troubling. I mean, there's no getting away from it. I think you will have heard the Prime Minister in his press conference yesterday morning, where he was very clear, along with European allies and others, that this type of approach to sovereign states, but also the threats of tariffs and global trade wars, are not in anyone's interest. And the Prime Minister is absolutely focused on protecting British interests. And our diplomatic abilities in the past have been able to do that. And he and my colleagues across government, as you would expect, are working at pace to try and make that happen again.
But there's a very clear feeling that diplomacy of that type is not working. There's a violence-threatening, tariff-imposing president, and he wants something. He wants Greenland, and he's going to do everything possible to get it. There's a danger that diplomacy doesn't work with him, isn't there?
Well, look, I think if you look at our successes in the past, British diplomacy has shown to work within a very challenging context and to work better than different approaches taken by other countries around the world. So I don't dispute the nature of what you're describing. All I'm saying is the best way, we believe, for Britain to respond to that and to navigate its way into the future whilst protecting British interests is to do what we do well as a country, which is convening around the world, using our diplomatic heft and using the Prime Minister's relationship with the President to protect British interests. And I know that that's challenging in this context, but that is what we're absolutely focused on. And if you look at the Prime Minister's track record so far, he's done a pretty good job on that front.
Should we be sending the king to a country like the US, which thinks we're stupid, which thinks we're not a proper ally, which is imposing tariffs on us and is threatening to go to a war with one of our own allies? Should we be sending the king as an act of diplomatic grace in those circumstances?
You'll have to forgive me for not answering that question. You'll know that it's protocol for me not to comment on decisions for the royal household, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to.
But the government, but this is where I understand why you don't do that. But actually, the royal household becomes part of the soft power of Great Britain. Our attitude to America actually involves the royal family. Keir Starmer gave an invitation to Donald Trump as part of his diplomacy. He said, "I'm using the king to get you to come to this country as a way of keeping you on side." Hand in hand, politics and royalty sat together. So you do use the royal family as a diplomatic tool. I'm asking you, is it appropriate to use it as a diplomatic tool in this case?
His Majesty and the royal family play a really important part in, as you describe it, British soft power. There's no denying that. What the government is not permitted to do is to provide a running commentary on decisions of the royal household. So again, I recognise the question, but you have to forgive me for not being able to answer it.
Does this end up with Donald Trump having Greenland? Taking Greenland? Is this where this ends? Because he seems single-minded on this process. He's going to keep going and going and going. He might do a deal on Ukraine if you let him have Greenland. He might remove the tariffs if you let him have Greenland. He might remove the threat of military force if you let him have Greenland. Is that where this is heading?
Look, I hope not. The Prime Minister's been very clear that what we must do is avoid a trade war and tariffs, which is in no one's interest, including the Americans, but also all of us in the Western world who have important trading relationships with the United States of America. But then also collaborate where we agree, as I was saying earlier, on how we need to improve NATO capabilities in the Arctic and the North. So if the President is, as he says he is, particularly worried about security in the High North, we agree with him on that. There are things that we can do as NATO to improve that situation compared to today. And those are the things that we're going to be focusing on. But as I said earlier, and as the Prime Minister has repeatedly said, the future of Greenland is a decision for the people of Greenland and the Kingdom of Denmark. Sovereign states are an important kind of bedrock principle of how the world operates, and we don't think that should be challenged in that way.
I'm sure you'd like to ban Donald Trump from social media, but that's not within your power. It is within your power to ban children under the age of 16 from social media. It's one of the things you're looking at today. I'd like to know your personal opinion on this, because this seems like a classic government operation. You said you weren't going to do it. There's been an outcry. Now you're going to consult on it. You personally, Darren Jones, do you think it's a good idea to ban children from social media under the age of 16?
So look, I'm a parent, or my kids are a bit little at the moment, but I personally would keep them as far away from social media as possible for as long as I can. It's totally understandable that parents worry about the impact of some of these platforms on their kids. What we're doing today is we're starting a national conversation about how we make sure we can go further than the powers we've already legislated for in the Online Safety Act to make sure that we're doing that in the best possible way. So, for example, one of the problems are what so-called addictive features, where if you're a young person, these apps allow you to just scroll and scroll and scroll continuously. There are certain things, I'm told, called things like streaks, where the app encourages you to come back on and back on and back on. And it's those types of addictive features that we want to consult on. But we want to do that in a proper way, talking to parents, teachers and technology companies. And I think it's right that we have the best interests of our children and their well-being at heart here.
More consultation is the point that you're doing today. Darren Jones, good to speak to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Thanks.
He's the Chief Secretary to the Prime Minister.